Andrew Price.
Mr. Price is going to be laid to rest right now. Let's listen into the funeral service for him, the fourth firefighter to lose his life in the line of duty this year in Chicago.
Are with us. And this is our comfort and our hope. Amen. Good afternoon. My name is Rocky Suppinger. I am one of the pastors at the Fourth Presbyterian Church here in Chicago. It is my honor to be with you here today, with you as members of Drew's family, especially Laura, with you as Drew's friends and his neighbors, with you as his fellow firefighters. It is my honor to be with you, and it is my hope in this time to share some words of what I hope will be assurance and perhaps even comfort in a moment of terrible loss. Other people will also speak this afternoon, and they will tell of Drew's exceptional character and the impact that he made on their lives and on the lives and the experience of many, many, many people, more people than Drew could have ever known. We will hear tell today of courage and compassion, of great strength to go with a peaceful, easygoing demeanor. We will hear of the love of a husband, a brother, a son, an uncle, a colleague. I am sorry not to have known Drew personally, and so I will not be able to add my own voice to these personal tributes, but I hope that you will permit me in this time to offer a vision of Drew's life and of his death, and an understanding of all of our lives in light of the inescapable reality of death for all of us. The first thing that comes into vision when you try to focus on Drew's life, I think, is gratitude. The way Laura put it is that always expressing gratitude was Drew's way of life. And so let us focus our vision for a moment on gratitude. A way of life characterized by gratitude takes opportunity to say thank you for even the smallest, even the most common occurrence. Because gratitude is a way of life grounded in a recognition that the things that we have and the things that we enjoy in our life are gifts, that the very best things that come into our lives are those things that we didn't earn, things that we maybe weren't even looking for. Drew was a man who did those little things to express gratitude. He wrote notes to people. He sent them text messages to congratulate them on what they might consider small accomplishments, just so that they would know that he was thinking of them, that he cared about them, and that he was grateful for them. And so we are gathered today to give thanks, to express our collective gratitude, because Drew was one of the best things in the lives of the people who knew him and loved him. Even people who only just met him. Somebody from the neighborhood around the firehouse shared this story about meeting Drew. My wife, young son Jack, and I were walking past the firehouse in early October this year. Our son is a toddler and he loves all vehicles. He was pointing at the fire truck, smiling from his stroller. When Drew saw this, he got up off the couch, came up to our family, and invited us in for a tour. He let my son go up into the driver's seat of the truck, play with the wheel, and then Drew turned on the truck lights. My son was ear to ear smiling, loving the entire experience. Drew helped us take pictures, and my son could not have been happier. It was one of the coolest experiences we've had as a young family. I cannot tell you how happy it made all of us. He even sent my son home with a kid's firefighter hat. After that experience, my son wanted to be a firefighter for Halloween, and he is absolutely in love with firefighters and with trucks. A religious word for this kind of experience, perhaps, is grace. Grace is a lavish, unexpected gift, not the thing that we're working for through training and discipline, but the thing that we weren't working for at all, the thing that we didn't even know that we needed. And grace asks to be received only with an ear-to-ear smile of a toddler. That is gratitude as a way of life. Recognizing and appreciating the ways in which Drew always expressed gratitude for the people who mattered to him, of course, can make us grateful. Grateful for the time that we were given with him to do simple things like look at sunsets. Grateful for those text messages and those written notes. Pure gift, all of it. And we are grateful. Because Drew was a gift, and perhaps that gift is not done giving. Though we are all only here on this pier today because that gift has been inexplicably and suddenly taken away, yet the power of gratitude as a way of life is to empower a gift to enrich our lives over and over and over again, even though the giver of that gift is no longer with us. Gratitude rejoices in all of life as a gift because none of this is inevitable. None of this has to be. And it won't always be. We know that. So we hold to one another as gifts today with an awareness made raw again this past week that we do not own one another, and that the claims that we make on one another's time and lives will not always be ours to redeem. Even the promises that we make to one another will not always be ours to fulfill, at least not in the ways that we are hoping and desiring to fulfill them. Recognizing the conditionality of all of our life can make us exceedingly grateful for it and for one another. And yet that does not mean that we regard death, this death, as simply part of the deal. Though faith takes comfort in the promise that death is not the end, life knows that it is nonetheless an end, a real end, and an unwelcome end. No matter how much we might have thought about and prepared for the possibility in advance. We lament the death of Drew Price, a man married to the love of his life barely 3.5 years, possibly not even halfway through his career, a person who as a teacher had so much left to give to the world. One of the great resources, I believe, of a spiritual life is lament. A lament is a cry of loss, a cry that asks, in the words of one biblical lament, is there any sorrow like my sorrow? A lament does not look for meaning in a loss necessarily, as if some silver lining could be outlined to explain it. No, a lament cries that this is not how things should go. Lament knows, of course, that this is always how things could go, but it knows just as well, deep in its bones, that this is never how things should go. More than explain or understand or accept, the operative word in lament, the operative words, rather, are weep and wail and groan. In 1936, the poet W.H. Auden gave the world a poem that feels to me today like a lament. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos, and with muffled drum bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message he is dead. Put crepe bows round the white necks of the public doves, let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now. Put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good. a lament. Lament is critical. Lament calls on other virtues because it takes courage to lose it in a lament when we lose someone we love, to say that we don't understand, we don't have the answers, and we don't accept it. Lament demands honesty because the truth that is awful is hard to say when life wants us to get back up and look on the bright side. Ultimately, I think lament takes faith, takes trust in God, who our belief might tell us could have prevented this. Trust all the same that God hears, is present to us, even as we rail against this brutal reality. This has not been prevented. Today calls for lament. Lament calls for faith, and faith calls for conviction. The Christian scriptures in the book of Hebrews defines faith as the assurance of things hoped for and the conviction of things not seen. The conviction of things not seen. So it is a matter of conviction that though a thing that every day could happen but never should does on a dreadful Monday in November actually happen, it is a matter of conviction that such things are not bound to happen. It is a matter of conviction that the occurrence of a tragedy, of this tragedy, does not diminish all of the gift that preceded it, and certainly does not forestall the promise of such good gifts yet to come. It is a matter of conviction that we have hope, that we are not stalked by sinister forces, human or otherwise, that are sure to doom our happiness from this day forward, but that instead we are pursued day after day after day, year after year, lifetime upon lifetime by a love that will never give us over to despair. It is a matter of conviction that despair is not our way of life. Gratitude is. Love is. So I'm urging conviction today, knowing full well that the things that require the greatest conviction are the things that are the hardest to see, the hardest to take hold of and to grasp. And as I urge that conviction, I share some as well. That love does its greatest work in the places that hurt the most. That though weeping lasts for the night, joy will come some morning. That life and creation will outlast decay and even death. That faith and trust and belief are never foolish. That saying thank you is always, always, always worth it. That life given for others in small gestures just as much as in a costly sacrifice is abundant life, is even eternal life. One last conviction. In gratitude for the life of Drew Price, in lament for his loss, and with conviction in the face of despair, we will find our way through today and through all of the days of promise yet to come. Let us pray. God of compassion, comfort us with the great power of your love. In grief and confusion, help us find peace in the knowledge of your loving mercy. Give us light to guide us into the assurance of your love. Amen. We'll now hear a tribute to Drew from Commissioner Nance Holt. Commissioner?
Good morning. Afternoon now. Sorry. Let me first just say a special thank you. All the years I've been on this job, that was probably one of the longest walkthroughs that I've seen. I just want to say thank you to everyone who came out today to honor Drew, to the departments that came from outside of Chicago, the suburban departments. The mayor wasn't able to be here today, but Rich Gaitis, his chief of staff, came. We have elected officials here. We have our police department standing with us strong, as they always do, and OEMC. We're public safety partners. We have the Gold Badge. We have the 100 Club. I mean, it's just amazing. And all the other organizations and people that came out today to honor such a dynamic person, thank you. So today we honor and celebrate the life of firefighter EMT Andrew Price of Truck 44. Drew, as we all called him, came on the job in 2009 and was assigned to Truck 47 and later to Truck 44. He was also detailed as an instructor at the Chicago Fire Academy in 2014, where he impacted a lot of lives. We are here to say a final farewell and share fond memories of a devoted husband, son, brother, uncle, friend, and co-worker. Our hearts are with the Price family as they deal with the terrible loss of Drew. Laura, Rochelle, and the entire family, I want you to know that you are not alone in your grief. And you are not alone in your love for Drew. We all love Drew. I believe that the true measure of a person's character is what is said about them when they're gone. One of my command staff members commented that not one single person had anything bad to say about Drew. That speaks volumes about the type of person Drew was and the character that he possessed. You did a great job, Mom. So what can I tell you about Drew? Well, recently he completed the physical fitness challenge. That's something we do every year in October, and it's voluntary. So Drew dresses up every year. And Laura, I know you noticed, he was dressed up like the Joker. So I'm serious, in full dress like the Joker. They said one year he was Batman, but that one didn't go over so well. So he's the Joker. Every year he comes and runs. We do a run, we do sit-ups, we do a bench press, and we do a stretch and reach. So he's dressed up like that. I mean, that brightened everybody's days. And they got pictures to show you if you want to see them, but it was like the coolest thing. Some of you who know Drew well, you know he was great at balance moves, and he helped teach a lot of people balance, our candidates and our firefighters who were already on the job. He also volunteered with the Mayor's Fitness Council. Everybody knows how much he liked working out and how important it was to him in his life. He was a regular along with Lieutenant Daryl Johnson, firefighter EMT Cameron McGurdy, firefighter EMT Gilchrist on NBC5 firefighter fitness segments. This was some time ago, but I think that's where everybody got to see what we actually do. And I mean, they did a good job representing exactly what firefighters do to get in shape. I was told by a good friend, Lieutenant Daryl Johnson, that Drew wanted to surpass him in his fitness. Now, Daryl is older than Drew. I won't say how old he is. He'll get me. But Lieutenant Johnson told Drew, the only time you can do that is probably when I'm 65. That's what he told him. So that's the kind of guy he was, always challenging. He was competitive. That was Drew. So thank you for sharing an amazing human being with us. I mean, amazing. His personality and zest for life was infectious. His impact on his fellow brothers and sisters will live on forever. What I know about Drew is he brought people together. He brought different races, different classes, different people together. He cared. He cared. He made an impact on all of our lives. I was told by one of his friends, and I hear his childhood friends are here today too, that that's who Drew was, and we got to know who he was too, that same man. Personally, to the Price family, remember that the Chicago Fire Department is your family, and you are ours. We will always be here for you, and please know that Drew's sacrifice will never, ever be forgotten. In honor of Andrew Price, let us all refocus on being thankful for those who come into our lives, because we never know, and we don't know the impact that they leave on our lives. God bless Drew, God bless the family, his co-workers, and wrap your arms around Laura and his mom, Rochelle, especially, sisters Courtney, Carissa, Natalie, brother Jordan, and his in-laws, Karen and Timothy. Rest easy, my brother. We'll miss you, but we're going to go on. We're CFD strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll now have a tribute from Engine 55, Truck 44, Battalion 12.
A couple people are going to say a few words. I'm going to begin, but Drew, all those hand salutes you just got were all for the thank yous that you passed around like nothing throughout your lifetime. In honor of Drew, I'm going to start with some thank yous. To his family, Laura, Rochelle, Courtney, Carissa, Jordan, Natalie, we say thank you for sharing Drew with us. He has had a profound influence and effect on us, and we are better people for knowing him. To all those that have shown their support over this past week, worked behind the scenes, some people don't like to take credit for it, and supported us through this process, whether you donated a meal, a text, a hug, phoned a friend, sent flowers, tipped your hat in a procession. It was all noticed and very much appreciated. It's comforting knowing that we weren't going through this alone. We say thank you. To the brave members of the Chicago Fire Department that went to work that night and respond to unknown dangerous situations each and every day, we are proud to work alongside you. We say thank you. To the fine members of the CPD who risked their lives trying to keep others safe, thank you for all your support through these difficult times. We say thank you. To the amazing doctors, nurses, and first responders who fought so hard to give Drew a fighting chance. We know you represent all those across the country who tirelessly give of themselves to help those in need. We say thank you. To those that I'm leaving out, we say thank you. Please bear with us as we get through this. While our minds are numb and our hearts are broken, we are privileged to be here today to honor and represent a person that was truly loved by many. Who was Drew? We knew him as a genuine, funny, big-hearted, thoughtful, hardworking, gentle, and caring person. If you took them all in, and many more, mixed them all together, you caught a glimpse of what was in his soul. He was a great husband, son, brother, doggy daddy, uncle, friend, and firefighter. He made an impression on all those he came in contact with in his meaningful 14-year career. Our paths first crossed early in his career. I don't have this written down, so I'm going to get through this. He was detailed as a candidate, and I was detailed, and there was another fireman who I think might have been a drill instructor. Drew was riding along with the Ambos. He was still signed to the academy, and he came in, and this guy looks at him, and he goes, who are you? Candidate Firefighter Price, sir. He goes, hey, take it easy. He goes, you're not at the academy anymore. He goes, you're in the firehouse. He goes, so grab a bottle of water, get yourself something to drink. So Drew goes to grab a bottle of water, and this guy, and I'm going to clean this up, this guy goes, you gotta be kidding me. These thieving candidates are grabbing our water. And Drew puts the water back, and he was befuddled, and I'm sitting there like, okay, this guy's pretty serious, And then the guy goes, no, I'm just kidding. Come on, you got to have thick skin to be in the firehouse. He goes, take it easy and wait for the guys to get here. They'll tell you what to do. So Drew goes to sit down, and this guy goes, look at these lazy candidates. Sitting down on the job, they haven't even been in the firehouse for 5 minutes. Drew springs up, he looks around like, what am I doing? What's going on? This guy, well, he was told to do something, he did it, got yelled at for doing it, and then he did it again. It was at that point in time that I knew Drew was not only going to be able to fit in the firehouse, but he was going to be a great fireman. Drew was active, fit, and always willing to help out. Our paths crossed again not long after, as we both sort of volunteered to join the CFD Blaze football team. One of us was going to coach and the other one was going to play. I'll try and let you figure out who did what. I came to learn that Drew had never played football before. It was a bit intriguing to me because football isn't the sport that people take up later in life normally. But he had this love for it and he wanted to get involved. To him, it was a new adventure, an opportunity to meet other guys on the job. And I've seen so many familiar faces from that team that I haven't seen in a long time. But that team really did bring a lot of people together that you might not have ever met in your whole career on the fire department. And I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for getting involved with that. So while his football IQ was a bit behind, his determination and willingness to work was not. He asked questions all the time, came to practice all the time. A lot of guys who are here know that we went from 60 down to 9 some days, but Drew was always there. He approached every practice and game as a new challenge, set his mind to it, and succeeded. He played every special team. A lot of the time, if guys didn't want to play special teams, Drew would jump in. He wanted to just do whatever he could to help out. Became a defensive back. There might be some pictures floating around of him flying around the field with his hair extensions in. That's a story for another time. After a couple seasons, I watched him become the guy that was helping the new guys out. What a progression. After every game, I'd give Drew a handshake and a hug, pay him a compliment. Nice tackle, good coverage, great interception. No matter what, Drew would always respond with, "You did a good job today." Again, being thankful for others. Wow. I watched that determination transition into the firehouse. Drew and I started working together on Truck 44. Drew always tried to do the right thing. He had pride. He worked at making himself a better fireman. He was invested. He listened to the senior guys and genuinely took interest in how to do things. You never had to ask him if he did his morning checks, if he had his uniform, if he started the saws, washed the rig, or did the inventory. He didn't need to be reminded. He did it. He eventually became the senior guy and #1 driver. That was through hard work. He earned that spot. Normally, some of those other responsibilities get kicked down to the younger guys. Drew kept doing them. He wanted to lead by example. He made sure that rig was squared away each and every day that he was there. You didn't have to dig deep to see who Drew really was. He wrote it, he said it, he showed it. He expressed it in every text or every conversation. He let you know in many pictures. His mahalo was being grateful that he was with you. Grateful, being in the moment. Grateful for all these small little things that happen in life that most of us take for granted. What a life to live where you can actually recognize and appreciate and be grateful for everything that's happening at the moment it happens. Every picture Drew was in, he would hold up that hand sign. I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was more mahalo stuff. And to be honest, my simple mind went to, what part of Indiana are the Hawaiians living in? But I finally looked it up. The shaka sign, this, is used to share aloha or love. It's given warmly to friends and strangers as a symbol of gratitude or thank you. The shaka is rarely, if ever, used in a sarcastic manner. It's kept sincere and pure, just as it should be. Sincere and pure. To me, that's who Drew was. We will rebound. We will eventually recover. But most importantly, we will always remember Drew for who he is and was. My guy, I hope you have big waves to catch, bright sunshine coming down on you, and a nice warm breeze at your back. I know you got your hat on backwards with your sunglasses on and a nice big smile on your face, just enjoying it. May you rest easy now, my brother. Take it all in and just chill until we meet again. Mahalo, mahalo.
My name is Dustin Jeffers, known as Dusty throughout the fire department. Please bear with me. I was one of the lucky ones that got to meet Drew about 10 years ago. He was my instructor in the academy. A few weeks into the academy, my family was in town and they needed to use my car for the day. I was sitting across the street waiting in the Jewel parking lot when Drew pulled up and said, "Mr. Jeffers, can I give you a ride?" I was so nervous that I've only known him as my instructor. So I said, "No, thank you." I didn't know if it was some kind of setup or a new kid prank. A few days later, I realized it wasn't. Got his number and sent him a text to him that I'm sure started with, "Instructor, Mr. Price." I was so nervous. This is where our friendship began. It would take a lifetime to tell all the stories about our short 10 years of friendship. If anyone knew Drew, you knew the DP language. Drew had his own language, especially in text messages. He actually said to me, he never liked to use the letter I. So he would always use it as the letter Y instead, like, L-Y-K-E. I would like to think he never liked the letter I because everything in his life was about others. He was always complimenting people and doing small things for others. He was truly selfless. Also, if you knew Drew, you knew he was also the ultimate jokester of the firehouse. Drew was known for laying under your bed for a very long time, waiting for you to come in the room just to get a good scare. He was committed that way. I've actually hid in his locker many a times waiting for him to open it so I can jump out and scare him. Over the last couple years or so, he would be my go-to guy for venting. I think I became his as well. We would talk things out, get it off our chest, and then he would turn it around and say, now let's turn that into a positive. He always wanted to find a way to be happy and shift everything to positive. Every morning before shift, first text I ever got was Drew asking if I needed coffee. Cold brew, actually, not just coffee. A few shifts ago, I was working in another house, Engine 56, and he texted me asking me if I needed Starbucks. I was riding my bike that morning, so I did not get the text until I got to the firehouse. He was texting me all day saying that he felt bad, and he was waiting at Starbucks that morning for me to respond, and I didn't. So he got his own coffee and left. He felt bad because he thought he should have gotten me coffee and didn't. That's just how Drew is. He would feel bad about me not even answering if I wanted coffee that morning. I wasn't working at the same house, so he completely went out of his way for me. That was Drew. Another thing I loved about Drew is every time you see him, whether you spent 5 minutes, 5 hours, or all day, he would instantly send you a text as soon as he got in the car telling you how great it was to see you. The day before his final shift on Saturday, him and Laura went to Costco, and he sent me a picture of the Christmas plant that they were getting for their house and asked if I wanted him to get me one also because they were so beautiful. I said sure, and him and Laura came by and dropped it off before they went home. We stood out front, Drew, Laura, me, my wife, and my 3-year-old son, and just talked. My son couldn't believe that he had another vehicle besides the fire truck and couldn't understand why he couldn't drive it over to our house to deliver the Christmas. I'm so thankful for that Christmas plant visit. It was the last time I saw him in person and got to hug both him and Lara. A day I will never forget. Now on to Costco. Both of our wives work during the day, so Drew and I always joke that we were the husband and wife taking pictures of Christmas plants or protein bars or anything we thought we should share. And we'd buy each other for our Costco visits. The guys at the firehouse would always ask where my husband was after a day off and what we did that weekend because we had just a genuine bond. I know Drew also cherished his bond with his family as well. Recently, Drew shared with me details on his recent trip that him and Jordan took to Maine. I actually told my wife recently I want to find a way to get invited to that trip next year. It sounded like such a fun and special trip of them two. One of my favorite, most recent memories that I'll cherish forever was on Marathon Day this year. I've ran the Chicago Marathon the last few years, and every year, Drew would make a sign and hold it up for me. This year, a few of the guys from the house and Drew were going to come out and watch me. At the last minute, none of the guys could make it, but Drew was dedicated. He brought a chair, a sign, and his Starbucks, and sat in that chair for over 2 hours waiting to see me for 15 seconds. It's the type of guy Drew was. So today, I challenge you all to think about 2 traits, 2 words that you would used to describe Drew. I want you to take those 2 words and bring them into your daily life. Let's make this world how Drew saw it, a beautiful and a better place. Mahalo, brah.
Good morning. My name is John Herring. Currently the captain on Truck 44. Pat Gallagher, who just spoke recently, was the captain prior to me. And I was very fortunate to come to this truck and already work with Drew, who had been working with Drew for a long time. I'd like to tell you a little story about Drew. And as Dusty just said, he truly had his own language. One of the things he would say when he met us in the morning, he would call us all my guy. And it was something that I'd only heard Drew say. So here would be a typical morning at the firehouse. As you've already heard, Drew would normally be the first one there. No matter how early we would try to get there, Drew would always be there before everyone else. My morning would start, "Good morning, my guy," he would say to me. And that was every morning. It normally took place in the front of the fire truck as we were putting ourselves in service. It was always accompanied by a smile and a look that only Drew possessed. It wasn't a judging look, but a look at you to make sure that you were okay. He would want to know how your previous days were since you last worked, and this would continue until he was satisfied with the details, and he would then move on to someone else. I would now hear him for the next hour say, "Good morning, my guy," throughout the rest of the shift, and you'd hear the sounds of hugs being given out. Days at the firehouse were always easy with Drew. As you have already heard, Drew was the hardest working fireman among us, and he took so much pride in everything. But what made Drew uniquely special was his cool, fun, always happy, and just chill personality. He had a way of making everyone around him happier. The days that Drew was on furlough or on vacation, there was always a notice in the firehouse that he wasn't there. We would inevitably those days end up talking about Drew in our normal conversation, and it would usually follow with a good laugh. As you have heard, Drew was the driver of Truck 44 and the senior member when I arrived. And for those that don't know, this is the most important on the truck, the most important position. It's a position of leadership and respect. And as you have heard, he took all of that with so much pride. He was patient and compassionate, and he took the time to work with his coworkers and the public. He took so much pride in driving that truck. Sometimes we would get back from a call, and he would apologize to me, and he'd say, "I'm sorry." I'd say, "Drew, what are you sorry for?" And he'd say, "Well, I should have taken this route or that route." To be honest, most of the time I didn't even know. He just found that it was such an important thing for him to do. He would leave the truck, he'd go look at our wall, which is a giant map, and he'd study it. And it was something that only I saw Drew do. "Drew, you were the best driver I've ever had. Thank you for always getting us to where we needed to go safely." The time inside the fire truck is usually a bonding moment for the members of the company. Drew and I would sit in the front, and the rest of the guys would be in the back. We would have our own conversations going. The fire truck's a loud place. That is where Drew would tell me about Laura and their wonderful life, their dogs, and their next wonderful trip. He would tell me about his family, Jordan and Courtney and Carissa and Natalie, and his mom and all his nieces and nephews. Like parents on a road trip, we would be listening to the chatter in the back. It was normally Dan and Will, Paul, Alex, and Frank, Tony, and Eddie, and Carlos. We were a lucky group with a lot of laughing and a lot of joking, no matter the time of day, no matter the stresses of the job. On our truck, Drew would see civilians waving all the time, and he would always return it with the Shaka Mahala. To this day, he would get the biggest smile as we would drive down the street, and the kids, before Drew got a chance, would be giving this out to us. There's a generation of kids in Lincoln Park right now that give that sign to Truck 44 all the time. The night of November 12th was the last night we would work together. Drew had the unfortunate duty of having the watch, which means he would be up the remainder of the night from approximately 10 o'clock on until the next morning. It was a normal night at Engine 55 and Truck 44, like many others. We heard Engine 55 go out on a few medical calls early, and then it was the truck's turn for a civilian assist or a well-being check. We were a lucky crew, as even though those aren't the most exciting calls, we laughed that night. You wouldn't imagine how many people don't wear the appropriate clothing at night. We returned around 5 o'clock in the morning to the firehouse, and we began to prepare to go home. At approximately 5:30, we were dispatched to a fire on the 2400 block of Lincoln Avenue. When we arrived on scene, there was smoke in the air and a civilian out front directing the chief to the rear as something I would later find out. Drew put Truck 44's main to work without hesitation. The aerial ladder was placed to the roof, and he proceeded up the aerial with Firefighter Mora to begin what's known as vertical ventilation. As they arrived to the roof and prepared to go to work, Drew stopped Alex, pointed out the light shafts, looked at the sunrise coming up with the skyline behind him. He told Firefighter Mora, "Mahala, brah, let's get to work." Drew always took time to see the best parts of life, the parts that many of us never noticed. Drew, you are very, very special. So one last time, good morning, my guy. Your brothers and sisters from Truck 44 and Engine 55 miss you and love you. Thank you for being a wonderful person, and thank you for being part of our lives. Now catch that big wave, enjoy that sunrise, and as the chief already said, just chill. Drew, we're going to be all right. We'll see you soon someday.
Hello, I'm Carlos Gonzalez. All right. It's March 18, 2021, my first day at Engine 55. I'm nervous. I walk in, and who's the first person I see? Drew Price. We introduce ourselves. He shows me around the house, and we fast forward 24 hours later. Day one is completed. Now that was March 18. On March 19, I received a text, barely making it into my car. Shift just ended, and it reads, "It's Drew Price," with his signature, hang loose. "Keep up the good work. Good working with you. Good working with you yesterday, and to many more. It meant a lot to me. I didn't know it then, but it was the beginning of a special bond." And that was just one text of many, many, many messages between Drew and I. At this moment, I'd like to share a few examples of what an incredible man Drew was. Drew once texted me, "I pride myself in honesty, being humble, and treating people with respect, even though they may not deserve it." Those were morals that he lived by, and I respect it. Another one was, "Ever have a question about anything? I got you. If I don't know the answer, we will figure it out together." If he saw potential in you, he wanted you to succeed, and he took the time to help you. Another text, "Better check under your bed for the monsters." In which I responded, "Scared the hell out of me." As Dusty said, he liked to keep the firehouse fun. If he wasn't hiding underneath your bed, you better watch it going around the corner. It's all fun and games till it's 3 in the morning. One day I sent him a picture. I was walking, and I noticed on a building nearby that there was a tagging that said Drew. Took a picture, and I wrote, "This you?" In which he replied, "Yeah. Let you know I'm always watching out for my guy." And then he said it was like his Batman call sign. I believed him. Not that he tagged that, but that he was always watching out for us like a big brother. Sorry. Those of you who knew Drew knew he loved football. Whether it was Thursday, Sunday, or Monday, if football was on, he wanted to watch. One day I knew one of his fantasy football quarterbacks was playing, so I texted him, "Hey, just got a touchdown." In which he responded, "Oh, hells yeah. Larber just wanted to watch Narcos. Just missed it. That sucks." Mahalo for the heads up, though. For this man to miss football because he ready to make his wife happy, now that was love. He loved you very much. All right. Drew, even though you're gone, we're still a team. And just like your Batman call sign, I know you're watching over us. Engine 55, Truck 44, Battalion 12, this shift is special. Lara, we're here for you. Drew, we love you, brother. Rest in paradise. Till we meet again. Mahalo.
A final tribute this morning will come from Drew's brother, Jordan.
My name is Jordan Price, and I have the esteemed privilege of calling Drew my brother. We as a family would like to take a brief moment and thank the City of Chicago, as well as the Chicago Fire Department, for honoring Drew's legacy this past week. The outpouring of love and support from the community has been overwhelming, and I can tell you that it has given each of us in turn the strength to endure during these difficult times. To his members at Firehouse 55, especially those of you on Truck 44 who were on the scene with him the morning of November 13th, words are incapable of expressing the amount of gratitude we have for your courage that day. Please know there is an immense amount of respect that we hold for the bravery you display in stepping into the unknown to the sound of alarms. We need you to understand that Drew took the utmost pride in working with you as colleagues, partners, and friends. The great responsibility of driving Truck 44 was something that Drew cherished deeply. To his close friends in attendance today, I know we all feel a significant debt is owed to Drew for being there in times when we needed him most. Unfortunately, we will never be able to repay that debt in full. We can, however, honor his memory by sharing treasured stories and remembering how he made us feel during those times. For those of you lucky enough to have known him well, understand the significance of what it was like to be in his presence. I encourage everyone to not only grieve the loss of my brother, but to recognize how lucky we are to have had someone in our lives so significant that saying goodbye is all the more difficult. According to Victoria Alexander, when grieving a loss, there are 3 necessities a person needs. 1, to find the words for the loss. 2, to say the words aloud. And 3, to know the words have been heard. Today, the community is rallied behind Drew's memory, and as his brother, I feel a great sense of responsibility to share some words that help describe who he was as a man. Drew held a unique ability to make everyone near him feel special. He had an unrelenting and unselfish concern for the safety and well-being of others. A natural caretaker at heart, he couldn't help but put his own priorities aside to make sure everyone else's needs were above his own. He possessed a strength of character that radiated from him and that often infected others. He was so full of life, positivity, and a wild sense of adventure that it was hard to imagine anything or anyone bringing him down. Countless times, we found ourselves chaperones of someone Drew had just met because his immense kindness and genuine curiosity made people gravitate towards him. It was infuriating. He gave a piece of himself to each and every person he encountered, and I can honestly say that I've never met anyone quite like him. There are very few among us that possess Drew's inherent and effortless altruism. These traits define who he was to his very core, and without him in our lives, there's a void that can never be filled. Drew lived a life worth emulating, and as his lasting legacy, I hope he inspired you to live a life of gratitude. I ask that you please continue to honor our first responders by showing your support, and make sure to say a mahalo for Drew. Thank you.
We go from this place commending Drew to God's eternal care. And so go with these words of blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord be kind and gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you peace. Amen. At this time, I ask that all of the uniformed members gather in the east end of the pier for the recessional.
You are watching our live coverage here on ABC 7 of the funeral services this afternoon for fallen Chicago firefighter Andrew Price, 39 years old, 14 years with the Chicago Fire Department. Price died while fighting a fire in Lincoln Park exactly 1 week ago. It has not been easy this afternoon watching a fire department family in such pain and saying goodbye once again to one of their own.
Indeed, and as we look at the recessional right now, as members of the uniformed services come outside, this is the Aon Ballroom at Navy Pier, so this is right at the end of it. And you can see the beautiful flag there and the ladders extended in salute to Andrew Price, who we heard so many wonderful testimonies to what an incredible leader among men and women that he was, and how deeply loved and adored and respected he was by his colleagues. Somebody who clearly got the message early in life that every day is a blessing and every moment is to be present in. So it was wonderful and sad, obviously, at the same time, to hear those testimonies from his colleagues.
Yeah, we heard from the pastor first, and then the fire commissioner, Annette Nance Holt, this afternoon, followed by beautiful and personal tributes from his battalion, Battalion 12, and so many of his colleagues sharing personal stories about Drew's character, exceptional character, and his impact on so many lives, perhaps more lives than he ever knew. And there you have it. His truck, we learned today that he was the driver of that truck and took immense pride in doing so, in responding to so many of those calls that they do on a daily basis. His family member, his brother, also speaking this afternoon along with his battalion, encouraging all of us that in this grief, at this moment, for the city of Chicago to always remember to say thank you, as Drew did, using that phrase that he loved, mahalo, which means thank you, but to thank and keep in mind and in our prayers, our first responders every day and what they do. And when they leave their homes, as the fire commissioner has said many times before, they never know if they will return home.
Take a look at his colleagues, and there are visiting firefighters from around the country as well, paying their respects, as we've seen in similar circumstances. You were saying, Judy, that he, of course, was the driver. That made him the senior member of that truck, a position his captain was saying of leadership and respect, and the kinds of statements and witness testimony, if you will, that we heard from his colleagues who would ride those trucks with him to those calls was stunning. And it's all on our website if you want to listen to it again. But there was a consistency to the messages about the integrity that this man had, his sincerity, his love of his job, and his love of his colleagues. Let's listen in as the ceremony continues outside at the Navy Pier.
In the Chicago Fire Department's Code of Signals 335 indicates that a company has returned home. With the sounding of this bell, firefighter EMT Andrew B. Price of truck company number 44 has returned home.
beautifully somber moment right here with the sounds of the bagpipes, and earlier you heard the traditional ringing of the bells and the salute, the gun salute, and from that entire department right there in that picture. Again, this is taking place just outside of the Grand Ballroom at Navy Pier. We also got a glimpse of the Price family right there watching this final salute.
Such an emotional ceremony, and it feels like all of Chicago is mourning along with this family right there, as you can see, because a first responder has been lost trying to save Chicagoans and be the first people to respond to danger. So we're all implicated in this sadness, and some of those overhead shots give you a sense of the entire scope of the ceremony and how many firefighters have come. By my count there, you've got several hundred for sure. And this is a ceremony we've seen, Judy, in the city too often, quite frankly. In the last year, this is the 4th firefighter in Chicago to die in the line of duty this year. And just so sadly, very much at the end of the shift, the story was told by some of his compatriots from Truck 44 about what they were doing. He was, Andrew Price, doing his job until the very end and looking out for other people, and by all accounts, an outstanding teammate and friend.
All of them describing Firefighter Price with the words of courage, compassion, infectious personality, genuine, funny, big-hearted, gentle, and just an all-around caring person. As we conclude our coverage here, I just want to leave you with one more thought. You heard throughout the service here today that how much he enjoyed, Drew, as they called him, using the word mahalo, which means thank you in Hawaiian. And he would often wave out the truck window as he was driving in the community and waving mahalo to the community. Yeah. So as an entire city here, final mahalo to fallen firefighter Andrew Price.
We were, one last note, the religious leader who was there at the beginning talked about how we have to lament this together. And he said that love does its greatest work where it's needed most. And so all of Chicago should think about what that might mean for them. As we watch Engine 44 leave the ceremony now with the funeral bier, it would appear, of Andrew Price and his uniform at the front. We'll leave you with that. We have full team coverage of this coming up this afternoon. Stephanie Wade is our reporter on the scene there. She'll have a full live coverage, Judy, for your show starting at 4 o'clock.
We will see you then, starting on Eyewitness News at 4. Thank you for joining us.
I thought Legend was cool, and then I asked her, she loved it, but she said we should put something in front of it. So we was trying to figure out what to make the first part so it wasn't just Legend. And one day she was like, oh, True Legend. And I was like, oh, I loved it. You love your name? Your name is True Legend. Can you believe it? Okay. Let's go, let's go.
So how has the house changed other than the nursery? Because soon enough, at the rate he's standing up, you're going to have to start child-proofing things.
Right.
And is this the famous closet I've been told about? Let me see.
Oh, you were told about it?
Oh, I heard from the word on the streets. Okay.
It's just basic.
We just wanted to make sure that he had options.
For the many nights on the town he's had.
Yeah.
Oh, Judy, tell me about his closet.
So we have the clothes segmented by size. So we have size all the way to like 2, 3T.
Excuse me.
And the sneakers?
Yeah, he has a mini sneaker collection. That had nothing to do with me. That's all beautiful.
This book is my son's favorite. This will become the hit in your home.
Really?
This was my son's favorite book until he was about 2 years old.
Oh, wow.
It was actually the first book he memorized.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So you've got 2 copies. You're gonna you got all the hits. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom. Okay.
No.
Llama Llama Red Pajama.
Yeah.
This is like the greatest hits of all your songs right here for babies.
Okay.
After the Mommy and Me tour, it was time to get back to business. Literally, the brat wanted us to see where she makes her music and why it's such an inspiring room. And that gave me a chance to spend some time with Judy to find out how this beautiful blended family is working, a family that includes